Welcome to Deep Fear, where your darkest nightmares turn real. Tonight's story may just keep you awake, so let's start the video. And don't forget to subscribe.
This happened to me in October of last year, and I still don't know how to explain it. I was living alone in a small apartment just outside the city. I'd just gone through a breakup, and I was doing everything I could to distract myself. Late night walks, scrolling endlessly, chain smoking on the fire escape. It was around 2:30 in the morning when I decided to take a walk to clear my head. There's a bus stop 2 blocks from my place, near an old laundromat and a shuttered diner. It's one of those routes that technically runs 24 hours, but almost no one uses it that late. I wasn't planning to take a bus, just walk past it on my usual loop. But that night, there was a bus parked there, engine idling, headlights on. I'd never seen a city bus stop at that time, not on that route. I paused. The sign on the front read 403N Layton Terminal. I'd never heard of Layton Terminal. I live on the east side, and there's no 403N that runs through there. I'm familiar with the transit system, and I can tell you for a fact there is no 403N. Still, I stood there watching it. It looked normal. Blue and white paint, slightly fogged up windows, a single figure sitting near the back, and the driver, barely visible through the thick glass, staring straight ahead like he was waiting for something. I don't know what made me do it. I stepped forward, just to peek inside. The doors hissed open. No one else was at the stop, no one around. Just me, the bus, and the cold, biting air. I should have turned around, but I didn't. The interior was lit dimly, flickering fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. The driver didn't acknowledge me. He just kept staring forward like I wasn't even there. He was wearing a uniform, but it looked outdated, like something from the 1980s. Faded patches on the shoulders, hat perched low, eyes hidden behind thick aviator glasses. I stepped on, holding my breath. There was only one passenger, a man near the back, slouched in his seat, wearing a hoodie and staring at the floor. I couldn't see his face. I scanned the bus, waiting for something to feel off. But weirdly, it didn't. Not yet. No fare machine beeped when I stepped in. No welcoming message. No security camera in the corner blinking red like it should have. Still, I sat down, second row from the front. The doors closed behind me, and the bus started moving. The first few minutes were dead silent. No bumps in the road. No city sounds, just the quiet hum of the engine and the occasional flicker of lights above me. I watched out the window, expecting to see familiar streets. Instead, the city around me seemed empty, hollow. Streetlights were few and far between. No other cars, no pedestrians, just darkness and silhouettes of buildings that looked barely real. After maybe 10 minutes, I stood up and walked toward the driver. "Excuse me," I said, clearing my throat. "Where exactly is this bus headed?" He didn't respond. Didn't blink. His hands gripped the wheel so tight and I could see the veins bulging in his knuckles. I said, he lifted one hand and pointed forward. "Layton Terminal," he muttered. Voice dry, gravelly. "End of the line." I paused. "Where is that?" He didn't answer, just placed his hand back on the wheel and stared ahead. That's when I noticed his nameplate was blank. I returned to my seat and pulled out my phone. No service. I tried refreshing the Maps app. Nothing. Tried texting my friend Sam, just something dumb like, "Yo, you up?" But it didn't go through. 0 bars. Not even Wi-Fi scanning. When I turned to look at the other passenger again, I nearly jumped. He was sitting 2 rows closer than before, still slouched, still face hidden under his hoodie. But I know he hadn't moved when I walked past him earlier. I watched him for a while. He didn't fidget, didn't breathe, as far as I could tell. Just sat there, slightly hunched, like he was waiting for something. I finally stood up and walked toward him. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual. "Do you know where this bus is going?" He didn't look up. I got closer. "Hello?" He slowly raised his head. His face was pale, sickly, and his eyes were completely white. No irises, no pupils, just foggy, milky blankness. I staggered back. He smiled. "Too late," he whispered. Then he slumped again, like nothing had happened. I ran to the front of the bus. "Stop the bus!" I shouted. "Let me off!" The driver didn't react. I reached for the emergency stop cord and yanked it hard. Nothing, no ding, no alert, just silence. I banged on the doors. "Let me off! Hey, I want to get off!" The bus didn't slow down. It actually sped up. The windows outside were no longer showing city streets. Just dense black forest. No lights. No landmarks. Just endless trees whipping past like we were flying through some forgotten wilderness. That's when the lights on the bus began to dim. And I noticed something else. The people on the seats behind me weren't just the pale guy anymore. There were more. Figures. Sitting motionless. All dressed in drab clothes. No faces I could see. Just shapes. Dozens of them. When had they gotten on? I don't know how long I stood there, frozen at the front of the bus, heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. The bus wasn't just full now, it was packed. Each seat had a figure. Some tall, some short, some slumped like corpses, others sitting rigid and alert, heads turned just slightly toward me. They hadn't been there before. I know they hadn't. I turned toward the driver. His knuckles were bone white, gripping the wheel like it was the only thing keeping him tethered to reality. "Who are they?" I asked, my voice cracking. "They're riders," he said, quietly. "Same as you." "What do you mean?" He didn't answer, just muttered something under his breath. I leaned closer. They missed their stop. The lights flickered again. For half a second, I swear, they all turned to look at me, every single one of them. Eyes like pits, hollow. Then the lights blinked off completely, pitch black. Just the low whine of the engine, and my own breathing. Too fast, too loud. When the lights came back on, I was no longer near the front. I was halfway down the aisle. I hadn't moved. I swear, I hadn't moved. But the driver was now far behind me, separated by rows of passengers, silent, watching. I stumbled backward, brushing against the shoulder of one of the riders. The skin was cold, damp, like touching a slab of meat that had just come out of a freezer. The rider's head twitched. Then it slowly turned to me. "Almost there," it whispered. Its lips didn't move. I bolted for the back door, slamming the push bar. It didn't budge. "Stop the bus!" I screamed, over and over. The windows were fogging up fast, but I could see just enough of what lay outside. Not trees anymore. Not the city. Nothing. Just black. Like the bus was driving through a tunnel of pure emptiness. The world erased behind us. I looked up and realized something terrifying. There was no reflection in the windows. Not mine, not the others, not even the lights. It was like we weren't even real anymore, like we'd already left the world behind. Then, the bus began to descend. I mean that literally. The road dipped steeply downward, like we were spiraling into some kind of underground shaft. The pressure changed. My ears popped. The air felt heavier, thicker, harder to breathe. Ahead, the windshield revealed a faint glow, red and pulsing like a heartbeat. The driver began to mutter again. Final stop, Layton Terminal, end of the line. The bus slowed. The riders all stood up in perfect unison. Not a sound, not a word, just the creak of ancient bones and rustling clothes as they rose. I pressed myself against the back window, heart racing. I didn't know what Layton Terminal was, but I knew I couldn't go there. As the bus rolled into the station, I got my first real look at it. A vast, underground platform, half rotted and soaked in flickering red light. Crumbling signs written in a language I didn't recognize. Shadows moving behind rusted pillars. At the center of the station was an old clock tower, frozen at 3:03. Below it, an open pit, like a collapsed sinkhole. The riders began to shuffle toward the doors, which opened with a hiss of rotting air. They moved toward the pit, one by one, wordless, falling, jumping, disappearing into the black. The driver stood slowly, turned to me. "You're not on the list," he said, tilting his head. "Good," I whispered. "Let me off." He nodded, almost regretfully. Then he said something I'll never forget. "You better run before it changes its mind." I sprinted down the aisle, past the motionless figures, and dove through the open door. The air hit me like a wall, icy, foul, electric, like the moment right before a lightning strike. The platform groaned beneath my feet. Behind me, the bus was filling again, but not with people, with things, shapes that weren't human, things that shouldn't exist, crawling in through the windows, writhing down the walls, something wet slapped against the pavement. I ran toward the far end of the platform, hoping, praying there was another exit. There wasn't, just a wall, a dead end. I turned back. The pit was pulsing. Something was rising from it. I heard my name, my real name, not out loud, but inside my head, over and over. "Come home." That's when I saw it, a narrow staircase tucked behind a fallen sign. It wasn't lit, barely wide enough for one person. I didn't think, I just ran. The steps were uneven, slippery, some missing entirely. I scraped my hands, tore my shirt, but I kept going. Behind me, something was following. I didn't look back. I couldn't. At the top was a rusted service door. I slammed into it, shoulder first, and to my surprise, it gave. I stumbled out into a deserted alley behind a warehouse I'd never seen before. The sky was still dark. The city was quiet. But I was back. I walked for hours, not trusting any street signs. Every bus that passed me, I turned my face away from. Eventually, I made it home. My phone had 13 missed calls from Sam. When I called him back, he sounded half crazed. "Dude, where were you? You vanished. You texted me like 5 hours ago. Just yo you up, and then nothing." I looked at the timestamp. He was right. Somehow, I'd been gone all night. I never saw the 403N again. I even contacted City Transit. They had no record of any bus numbered 403N, no route to Layton Terminal, nothing even close. But sometimes, late at night, I hear it. The low hiss of air breaks outside my window. A soft engine hum. And once, just once, I thought I saw that pale man in the hoodie sitting across the street, smiling. This happened in October 2020, right before Halloween. My friends and I were returning from a weekend camping trip near High Ridge Forest, a rural spot that's pretty much in the middle of nowhere. There were 5 of us: Josh, Bree, Keenan, Maria, and me. We'd planned to take the Grayway bus line back into town. That route runs through a few sketchy back roads, but it was our only cheap way out. It was already getting dark when we arrived at the little stop on Route 6. There was no shelter, no lights, just a faded sign jammed into the dirt and a wooden bench that looked like it would snap if you sat wrong. We waited nearly an hour. No buses. Then, at 8:47 p.m. exactly, a single bus pulled up. It didn't look like the regular Grayway buses. This one was older, boxy, greenish, the kind of vehicle that would have looked at home in the 1970s. No ads on the side, no logos. Just a yellowed placard above the windshield that read, Black Hollow, 131C. None of us had ever heard of a stop called Black Hollow. But we were tired, cold, and it was either that or walk 10 miles through the woods in the dark. We got on. That was our first mistake. The bus was ice cold. No driver in sight. No passengers. Just 5 empty rows and a faint smell of something rotten, like damp wood and copper. The moment we all stepped inside, the door closed behind us. We looked up, and the driver was there. We just hadn't seen him at first. He was hunched over the wheel, wearing a greasy black cap and a jacket that looked sewn together from mismatched pieces of uniform. His skin was pale, almost translucent, and his mouth didn't move when he greeted us. Route 131C, Black Hollow, he rasped. One way, Josh laughed. Sounds spooky. Perfect for Halloween weekend. The driver didn't respond. He just pulled a lever, and the bus jerked forward. That was the last moment anything felt normal. As soon as we started moving, all the windows fogged over. Not just a little. I mean full whiteout, like steam or smoke had filled the bus from the outside. We couldn't see anything out there. No streetlights, no trees, no moonlight. Josh tried to wipe a circle in the glass with his sleeve, but the fog wouldn't budge. It was like the window was sweating from the inside. Bree whispered, "Guys, I don't think we're on the main road anymore." Keenan checked his phone. No signal. Maria checked hers too. Nothing, not even Wi-Fi options. Mine was completely dead, even though I'd just charged it during lunch. The driver didn't answer our questions. He didn't even blink. I leaned forward. "Excuse me," I asked. "How long is this ride?" He looked at me slowly, then said, "Depends how much you remember." The lights on the ceiling began to flicker. Not like normal bus lights. These were irregular, pulsing in a slow rhythm that didn't match the movement of the bus. Outside the foggy windows, dark shapes started appearing. Not people, not animals, just outlines, lurching, floating, watching. Keenan squinted out one window and muttered, "You guys seeing this?" We all did. It looked like they were following the bus and getting closer. Then we saw the first sign, a small wooden board lit faintly by the bus headlights. It read, "Welcome to Black Hollow. Stay inside after dark." None of us had heard of Black Hollow. Josh, who loved this kind of creepy crap, pulled out a notebook. "Maybe it's one of those forgotten towns," he said. "Like Centralia, you know? Ghost towns. Abandoned by the state." We passed another sign. "In case of whispers, do not respond." And then another. "Do not look in the mirrors after mile 5. By now, Maria was curled up in her seat, not speaking. Her eyes were fixed on the front of the bus. Bree was holding her hand. Keenan asked, "How many miles are we into this?" The driver answered softly, 4. We all froze. There was a long mirror above the aisle. One of those convex ones drivers use to watch passengers. In it, we saw ourselves. But our reflections were not moving the same way we were. Josh was rubbing his hands together, but in the mirror he was gripping the seat. Bree was looking out the window. but in the mirror, her reflection was staring at us. "Don't look," the driver hissed. "If it sees you see it, it comes through." Too late. Maria screamed. She'd looked. Her reflection in the mirror didn't scream. It smiled, then vanished. The lights went out. When they came back on, Maria was gone. Her seat was empty. No noise, no sound. Just gone. Bree started shouting, slamming her hands on the walls. "Stop the bus! Let us off!" The driver didn't move. "This is the route," he said. She broke the rule. We demanded answers. We begged. All he said was, 3 stops left. Then the hollow takes what it's owed. The bus slowed. Outside, the fog parted for a moment, revealing a stretch of town. Dilapidated houses, an old train station covered in moss, and in the distance, something massive. It stood between the buildings, tall, hunched, barely visible except for its shape. Long arms, bent head, and glowing orange eyes that blinked out of rhythm. None of us spoke. The bus passed beneath it, and the creature didn't move, but I swear, it turned to follow us with its head. Next stop, the bus shuddered to a halt. The door opened. Josh stood up. "I'm done. I'm getting out." Bree grabbed his sleeve. "Don't!" But he smiled. "I want to see what happens." He stepped out. The door shut. The moment the bus moved again, we all looked back. Josh was gone. There'd been no sound, no scream, just gone. Now it was just me, Bree, and Keenan. We didn't talk. The signs outside started changing. Now they weren't warnings. They were memories. "She left you at the altar. You let your sister drown. You lied when it mattered most." And I don't know if they were directed at us individually or just general guilt trips. But they hit hard. Keenan started crying silently. Bree held his hand again. Then she whispered, "I don't think this bus ever stops." One final sign came into view. One may leave, one must stay, one is theirs. We looked at each other. The bus began to slow. I turned to the driver. "Who decides?" He didn't answer. Instead, the back door creaked open on its own. Bree stood up first. She hugged me, then Keenan. And without another word, she walked to the back and stepped off. The door closed. The bus kept moving. I turned around to look at Bree through the rear window. She wasn't there, but someone else was. A girl with hollow eyes, smiling. Then Keenan stood up. "I think I'm next," he said. His voice was barely audible. I grabbed his wrist. "Don't. Maybe if we both stay." He shook his head. "This place, I know it." He didn't explain. He walked down the aisle and vanished into the fog. The bus was empty now, just me and the driver. I sat there for what felt like hours, watching signs go by with no writing on them anymore, just blank wood. Eventually, the driver pulled the lever. The bus stopped. He turned to me for the first time. "You made it." I looked around. "Where are we?" He smiled. "Back." The door opened. I was standing at the original stop on Route 6. It was morning. Sunlight, birdsong, cars in the distance. My phone buzzed with notifications, but when I checked the news, I saw something strange. 3 people were reported missing near High Ridge Forest. Campers, gone without a trace. Their names? Josh, Maria, Keenan. No mention of Bree. No mention of me. I still have nightmares about that fog. And sometimes, when I pass an old bus stop or ride late at night, I swear I see that same greenish bus down the road, just barely visible. Sometimes I hear a voice whisper, "One may leave, one must stay, one is theirs." And I wonder, was I the one who left, or am I still riding? This happened in March of 2023, and I still check the mirror every morning to make sure I'm really still me. I had just moved to a new city, Ortonville, a little-known industrial town out in the Midwest. The kind of place where people keep to themselves and the buses run late, if at all. I had no car, no bike, and no license, so I relied on the city transit system to get to work at a small accounting firm downtown. There were only a few active bus lines in Ortonville, but one route ran close to my apartment, Bus 77. Its official route was supposed to run from the East End Loop to the Industrial District and back. Pretty normal, but I quickly realized something strange about it. Bus 77 never seemed to stop for anyone except me. At first, I chalked it up to coincidence. The first few times I rode it, I noticed it would pass others waiting at stops, elderly people, students, moms with strollers, and just keep going. But every time I approached, it pulled up smoothly, doors opening with a soft hiss, always on time. The driver was an older man, clean-shaven with a pale face and silver-rimmed glasses. I remember his name tag, R. Marin. He never said much, just nodded silently when I got on and watched me through the rearview mirror as I found my seat. I thought maybe the route had changed, or maybe Ortonville just had a weird public transport system. But the more I rode, the weirder it got. The other passengers were always the same. No matter what day or time I rode it, I saw the same people. A woman in a navy blue coat, knitting something you could never quite see. A tall man in a faded brown suit who never blinked. Two little kids sitting in the back row, always silent, always holding hands. I tried smiling at them, waving, even saying good morning once. No one ever responded. No one ever moved, except for me. One Thursday evening, after a long day, I boarded Bus 77 like usual. The sky was overcast, and I was the only one waiting. The bus pulled up right on time. The same people were already inside. But something was different this time. The driver, Marin, turned around and looked directly at me as I stepped on. His eyes were red around the rims, like he hadn't slept in days. "Do you know where this bus goes?" he asked. I paused. Downtown?" He shook his head very slowly. "Not anymore." Then he faced forward and the bus began to move. I laughed nervously, thinking he was joking. I sat down and looked out the window, expecting to see the familiar liquor store and car wash. Instead, we passed row after row of burned-out buildings, broken windows, streets with no names, houses with the doors hanging open. None of it was on the regular route. I stood up and walked to the front. "Hey, I think you missed the turn at Douglas," I said. Marin didn't respond. I looked around. The other passengers hadn't moved an inch, not even the kids. I pulled out my phone, no signal, not even emergency bars. I turned back to the driver. "Sir, I need to get off." Still nothing. I reached for the cord and yanked it hard. No ding, no flashing light, no sound at all. "I said let me off." He finally spoke, barely above a whisper. "This route doesn't stop anymore." The bus kept driving. We passed a sign that read, "Welcome to Oak Spine, established 1911 only." Oak Spine isn't on any map. The town we entered looked completely abandoned. Every window was boarded up. Street signs were rusted over or blank. Even the stoplights were frozen in place, flickering red and green at the same time. I turned to the passengers. "Is this a joke? Is this like some kind of art project or something?" They all looked up at once. Their eyes were completely black. I backed up until I hit the rear door, slammed the emergency release. Nothing. The kids in the back row stood up, still holding hands, and began walking toward me. Their faces didn't change. Their expressions didn't move. Just blank. I ran forward again, this time to the driver's seat. "Where are we going?" I shouted. He didn't respond. Even the same photo of my mom and I on the wall, except she was smiling in it, and I don't have any pictures of her smiling. She passed away 2 years ago. I turned and bolted outside. I checked the next house, and the next, and the next. Each one was a different version of my life. One was my college dorm, exactly as it looked the night I got dumped. Another was my childhood bedroom, posters still on the wall, desk lamp still flickering the way it always did before I went to sleep. Each house was like a memory frozen in time, but none of them were real. Then I saw it. In the distance, on the far end of the cul-de-sac, the bus was back, just sitting there, its lights off, no driver. I sprinted toward it, nearly slipping on the gravel. When I reached it, the doors opened on their own. Inside, the passengers were back too, but now they were facing me, not moving, not blinking, just staring. The little girl opened her mouth slowly and whispered something I'll never forget. "We left too. It doesn't like that." I backed away slowly, and that's when the sun went out. I don't mean it set. I mean it was there 1 second, dim and gray, and gone the next. Like someone turned off the sky. I could barely see. The neighborhood vanished in the darkness. The only thing left was the bus, lit softly from within, like a glowing cage. I had nowhere else to go. I got back on. The door closed behind me. Marin was there again. He didn't say a word, just drove. But now the windows showed nothing. Not roads, not houses, not the city. Just white, pure, endless white. Like we were floating in an empty world with no ceiling, no ground, no shape at all. I sat quietly, trying not to cry. That's when the man in the brown suit finally moved. He stood up, walked slowly toward me, and handed me a folded piece of paper. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside, written in neat, blocky letters, was this: "When you see yourself, don't make eye contact." I didn't understand what it meant until the bus stopped again. The door opened and someone stepped on. I stared in disbelief. It was me. Same hoodie, same shoes, same tired eyes. I walked right past me and sat in the exact seat I'd always taken. Didn't even glance my way. The other passengers turned to face me. The little girl whispered again, "You shouldn't be here twice." I felt it then, like the air was folding in on itself. The lights on the bus began to flicker violently. The walls rippled like water. Marin turned and shouted, "Don't look at him!" But I already had. I looked myself straight in the eyes. My doppelganger smiled, too wide, just like Marin's had. Then everything shattered. Not literally. More like reality itself broke. I was standing in the street again, but this time it was raining. My phone buzzed. I looked down. One new message from unknown. It read, "Last stop." I was back at my regular bus stop. Everything looked normal. Cars passed. People walked by. My apartment glowed faintly from 2 blocks away. It felt like a dream. Until I looked at the bus number as it pulled away behind me. It didn't say 77. It said 1977. The year Marin had died in a crash. Something I only found out later when I searched through old newspaper archives at the local library. He was a real driver, killed in a head-on collision during a snowstorm. All passengers lost. They said the bus route was discontinued afterward. No survivors. No known cause. No final destination. I don't ride the bus anymore. I walk, rain or shine. But sometimes, when I pass the old stop after dark, I see the headlights. And once, just once, I saw myself inside, smiling back.
If you enjoyed this nightmare, like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.